Yeah, 3 up, 3 down, guys. Bedlam sweep, 7-1, 6-0, 5-3 Thursday through Saturday. Sweating a little bit. We've talked about this team and how game threes, maybe they're not quite at their best. I think that was true again against the Cowgirls. But guys, tell you what, I understand OU is going to play at home through the regionals and super regionals, but what a perfect way for Jocelyn Allo to finish her regular season career by hitting a walk-off grand slam to beat your in-state rivals. So that was a special moment. So Big 12 champs, again, looking ahead to the Big 12 tournament this weekend. Sooners will take on the winner of Iowa State and Baylor, who play on Thursday, and the Sooners will play on Friday at 1 p.m. Central Time. And you would think they're going to be playing the winner of the other side of the bracket between Oklahoma State and Texas, and that will be on Saturday at 2 p.m. Guys, a fun fact here, if the Sooners can go through the postseason and win a national championship with less than 3 losses, they'd be the first champion with less than 4 losses since 1994. And if they go through with even less than that, losing 2 or 3 games, at least according to the NCAA website, there's not been an NCAA champion that has had less than 4 losses. So history potentially in the making here, guys. And, we've talked about it again and again. I think we all can see this team losing a game. Do we see this team losing multiple times at any point? It's really hard to imagine that, but the competition is definitely going to increase, to say the least. So looking forward, as far as who could potentially the Sooners be looking at in the super regional matchup. Obviously, you'd be looking for somebody in the 16 seed range in the RPIs. Right now, you're looking at Washington 14, Texas 15, UCF 16, and Oregon 17. So obviously, I don't think they're going to put Texas in that 16 spot. But Washington, Oregon, maybe some juicy matchups there in the super regional.
Little Melissa Lombardi coming back to Norman. That'd be a lot of fun. Guys, I do kind of want to pose a question to you. Obviously, this team finished in the regular season 48-1. Is it a letdown if this team doesn't win a national championship based on how dominant they've been? Like, is it national title or bust?
Has to be.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, honestly, the number 1 overall seed is pretty much wrapped up at this. I don't think there's any way that they get that. They have a 5-game difference in the loss column between who's ranked number 2 right now and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, not a familiar name really in the softball scene at all, so they're a little bit new there. But yeah, it almost feels like the scenario in basketball when you get to the conference tournament and Duke or Kansas is like, well, maybe they just lose in the first round and take the rest. But really, OU only has to win 2 games, I think. Is it right? 2 to win the conference. So that's nothing. Take that, stay in form, and go rolling into the regionals, of which you're probably not going to have that much competition at that level either. So it's not like you're resting up for anything.
I wouldn't think they care who they play in the finals, but maybe they'd want Texas again. I mean, you'd think just the competitor in you, like they beat you last time on the field, you probably want another go.
Yeah, but also at the same time, Texas's pitcher over the weekend, she was voted, Big 12 Player of the Week. She was pretty dominant over the weekend. So, but yeah, you'd have to think as far as the competitiveness within this team. They would want to have a chance to, they did right the wrong by winning on Sunday, but ultimately you have a chance to knock your arch rival Texas out of the Big 12 championship and win the conference tournament. Couldn't ask for anything more than that. Honestly, guys, it's we're so accustomed to seeing it. Oklahoma's not going to have to lead the state of Oklahoma throughout the entirety of the postseason. So it's nice. It's going to be a true home field advantage, whether it's at Marita Hines or up the road in Oklahoma City for the Women's College World Series, knock on wood. But guys, just talking about the Bedlam series, Jordy Ball was dominant on Thursday, finally getting a chance to go up there in person and watch her. How this girl is as good as she is only a freshman. I think that there's a very, very good possibility, given the fact that she stays healthy. She has a chance to be one of the best pitchers, not just in Oklahoma history, but I think has a chance to go down in softball history as being one of the greatest pitchers of all time in terms of what she can accomplish. But I think that my biggest takeaway from what we saw on over the weekend with Bedlam, I like to see a little bit of adversity, especially from the pitching staff. Jordy was dominant on Thursday. Hope Trotwine threw a really good game on Friday. Fast forward to Sunday, Nicole May kind of came out the gate, struggled a little bit early on, which I know that Nicole May, especially you, Corbin, we're talking about, is Patty kind of saving her for the end. We haven't really seen too much of her.
That was Trotwine.
Or Trotwine. Okay.
Yeah.
So haven't really seen too much of Nicole May. She struggled early on. Ultimately, Patty decided to put Hope in there. Hope didn't have it on Sunday. I think she walked 3 or 4 batters in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the best part about it for me, aside from the Jocelyn home run on Saturday, was seeing Nicole May re-enter the game, being able to overcome, kind of find the strike zone, and she was dominant, was able to close out this the Sunday game for Oklahoma. So pitching is going to be a big deal for this team. Jordy can't do it on her own, so if you can have that number 2 and number 3 option, like you said, Adam, I don't see any team in college softball that's going to beat this team twice, much less once. So you've got to pray that you get Oklahoma on a really bad day where they're not swinging the bats. Maybe the starting pitcher's not finding the strike zone, and you've got to kind of play the game of your life. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to Tiare Jennings. She's been incredibly dominant, and the spotlight is on Jocelyn Alo for all the right reasons. She's the home run queen as it stands here, May 10th, 2022. But Tiare Jennings, as we tweeted about, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, she's actually pacing ahead of what Jocelyn Alo had done to this point in her career. Now, I believe it was the sophomore year for Alo where she took some time off from softball, the very famous story that everyone likes to talk about. So maybe that's why Jennings is ahead of her right now. But you look at next year and hey, Alo's not going to be around. Who's going to be the ringer? And you spend about 5 seconds thinking that over. It's Jennings. She is just crushing it over the fence constantly. So
will she get a COVID year?
I don't
think so, right?
Believe so. No, I believe the
question.
spring sports she would have had to been on the team that got the season canceled in 2020,
Gotcha.
which she was not.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So that'll be a
tough
little
to
bit.
Catch Alo. Yeah,
it'll be a little bit different because Alo is still adding to that total. But
Right.
But as it stands right now, she's outpacing her through the first 2 years.
And kind of one more thing not to forget, Adam, Kinsey Hansen's, kind of battling back from her injury that she suffered a little bit earlier this season. She's been kind of in a slump in the batter's box. I think they said during the broadcast she's had like maybe 1 or 2 hits in her last 10 games. So her being able to come up, clutch in a big way, delivering that, I think it was a bases clearing double during that game on Thursday night. That's got to give her a ton of confidence. And, she's a player that you want to have in your lineup, especially once we just do start to see some pretty dominant pitching from the UCLAs, the Florida States, Virginia Techs of the world. She's going to be a player that you're going to want to have her swinging the bat once Oklahoma gets into the postseason. So good for Kinsey Hansen. It's good to see her back.
Guys, to me, the player of the weekend had to be Janna Johns, though. I mean, she had a few incredible at-bats to really stem the tide and get the momentum going for this OU team. So she's not the flashiest player. She's not going to be leading the team in home runs. But I tell you what, there probably wasn't a more important, 2 or 3 at-bats throughout the weekend than what she had. And long pitch at-bats and really came through when the Sooners needed it. Because there was a while there, especially on, I think, Thursday night, she kind of stemmed the tide and had a 15 pitch at bat or something like that. It was 15, something ridiculous. Ends up getting a hit, and that was kind of when the Sooners rallied behind her.
Spark plug.
100%.
Yeah.
So Adam, let's hear it, man.
Yeah.
You've been waiting all season for this.
I have been. It was kind of a weird series against TCU in baseball this past weekend. The bats were not necessarily alive. TCU out hit OU in several of the games, but the TCU pitching staff really just could not throw strikes, walk after walk after walk. I think I believe it was on Sunday. The greatest example of this was Kendall Pettis. Usually hits 8th or 9th in the lineup, comes up, is hit by pitch, gets to first base, steals second, has a balk, gets to third, wild pitch, scores the run. No hits, and he made it all the way around the base path. And that was a pretty common theme against TCU. It started out a little bit rocky on Friday. TCU had their usual Friday ace out with injury, so you thought, hey, this is the game that OU can steal. They get up on a big lead in the first inning, and then TCU throws a reliever in there that can throw 75-plus pitches, something that OU just does not have coming out of the bullpen right now. And TCU was able to get back in. Some questionable decision-making from Skip as far as how long he left Jake Bennett in that one. But when you come back and you win Saturday and Sunday, it takes away some of that second guessing. So you feel really great about, hey, you got a big series win over TCU, currently second in the conference is TCU, and OU moves up to fourth with a real opportunity to move up even higher. Texas Tech is playing at OSU this weekend. So if you think definitely root for the Pokes in that scenario, bump Texas Tech down, and then OU can come to Lubbock the following week and have a chance to really beat up on Texas Tech as well. I think you do want to get up because we're starting to talk about Big 12 tournament standings and where that's going to go. So I think you definitely want to avoid being in that 4 seed as of right now where OU sits, because if you win that game, you're likely playing Oklahoma State in game number 2, and I don't think that's a team that OU matches up with very well. So
they're 2-2 on the year, though, right?
That's true. You won 2 on the year, and you had a game that you probably should have won in Stillwater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost looking at the Big 12 tournament though and going, I'm not going to expect a whole lot from that scenario, because you're likely playing 4 or 5 games in a weekend there, starting Wednesday through Sunday, if you're able to go that far. And I think that's going to be really tough on the pitching that we have. In a 3-game series, I like my chances a lot better.
Yeah. When you see this team climbing the ranks, finding their way into the top 25 for the first time this year, sitting at number 24, it's kind of hard not to kind of sit back and think, what could have happened, if, the bullpen comes through, you're able to take the series, which they had a really, really good chance in Stillwater and, against Texas as well down at Globe Life Field. And then also thinking about the bullpen's performance against LSU earlier in their season. If you win those 2 series, you win that game against that SEC opponent, you're talking seriously, Adam, I think about this team hosting a regional. So, I still don't think it's out of the possibility right now. It's kind of a long shot, but ultimately this team, they've done all that they've been asked to do. They're playing baseball, they're kind of peaking at the right time. Skip Johnson's done really, really good, taking care of both the Kansas schools, ultimately going on the road and knocking off TCU and Fort Worth. It's a big one this weekend. I think West Virginia. You were in attendance last Friday. I'm going to be there this Friday as well to kind of check out what's going on. But no, you take care of business against the Mountaineers this weekend. We'll see what happens against them in Lubbock, but this team's playing really, really good baseball right now, and they're kind of hitting their stride in time of season where it means the most.
Adam, is this fool's gold?
The Kansas schools are fool's gold. The wins against Kansas and Kansas State are definitely that. TCU, they are a team that had built up quite a resume to get to that number 2 spot in the conference, but they are not playing their best baseball right now. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say that series win is fool's gold, because you go, on the road and do that to a team that's got a lot of talented players. I still think that's a solid quality win. I think if you can beat West Virginia this weekend, that's also a really solid quality win. West Virginia is kind of similar to OU in a lot of ways. They're about 500 on the road, basically the same that OU is. So the expectation is OU should be able to take 2 or 3 against West Virginia. That needs to be the standard at this point for what this team is looking to accomplish so far. And then if you beat West Virginia, whatever you do on the road at Texas Tech, I honestly don't care at that point. I think you feel really good about how the conference season wrapped up. We are starting to see OU marked at that 2 line on some of the baseball tournament projections for the postseason. And I think that would be a really great accomplishment, but I do think that they're still got some work to do. They can't just go out first round in the Big 12 tournament or go 0-3 against Texas Tech.
Adam, this is kind of an open-ended question, but we've seen, a pretty remarkable turnaround. Yes, it's against, a little bit of inferior competition with the Kansas schools, but this baseball team's played really well over the last 4 to 5 weeks. What's been the biggest difference that we've seen from this team and kind of how they've grown up, over the course of the last 2 months, and what's got them playing so much better baseball right now compared to earlier in the season back in, late January, early February?
I think it's been a combination of offense and defense. This team still continues to make some head-scratching decisions both on the field and from the dugout, which is still strange. It's like, man, some of these mistakes are avoidable, and you feel that there could be a few more wins, especially series wins, on this team's resume at this point. But early in the year, we had some pitching, but we didn't have the offense. Then we had offense, but not necessarily the bullpen. It's all starting to come together a little bit right now. So you've got Cade Horton that's moved into that Sunday spot. That's moved Chaz Martinez into a longer reliever type role that makes you feel really solid about what could happen on Sunday. Although Martinez came in on Saturday and wrapped up that entire game, that win. So you only needed 2 pitchers on Saturday. And then this is my Adams optimism, more help coming from the bullpen. No midweek game this week. There is one Monday night game next week against Wichita State. But once you get into postseason, no midweek games. You've got all weekend series. So that adds another arm to the regular rotation on the weekend. And Braden Carmichael, who has been the starter for most midweek games. And up until this past Tuesday, when OU lost at Dallas Baptist, OU was undefeated on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, midweek as a whole. So I think that's a nice arm. He's played a little bit on weekends, but now he can play probably a little bit bigger role, a couple more innings potentially from him. So it's all coming together there as far as, hey, this team is getting stronger as the season goes on. And you feel really good about, the hitting and where that stands right now. The base running is aggressive. You've got guys that can step up, one day, and then another guy that can step in, the next day. So you like where it can go. And I think probably the biggest encouragement I've seen, Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball, probably the biggest name out there that follows and reports on college baseball, had this to say about you. He had them as the team to watch right now, but he said could easily win a regional. Now, he didn't go so far as to put OU as his one of his top 8 in Omaha, but could easily win a regional. That kind of blows my mind a little bit because I've always had a little bit of a wait and see approach because I've been burned by OU baseball before. But that is encouraging. There's a long way to go. They're peaking right now. Is this the end of the peak? I hope not. I hope they can continue to push forward.
Adam, if I would have told you in February that we're sitting here second week of May and Texas baseball is 11-10 in conference, your response would have been,
that's shocking because Texas was ranked number 1 going into the preseason. And another little story that you kind of just reminded me of that Toby has mentioned on the broadcast a few times this year is that there's like a brand new hotel that's attached to the Rangers ballpark down in Arlington. I think it might be an Omni brand hotel. Super nice. I think you can walk from the hotel to the stadium without going outside. It's pretty awesome. So the Big 12 Conference, I believe, is putting the top 4 teams in that hotel for the Big 12 tournament weekend. And Texas went ahead at the beginning of the year and said, we're not going to take our chances. We're going to go ahead and book our team in that hotel, even if we don't make the top 4, which is kind of ironic because now they're not likely to make the top 4. There's still 2 weekends left, but Texas has really faded pretty hard at this point. So, yeah, that's been unusual to see them drop at this point.
It's kind of nice talking about baseball right now.
It is this week. and I think with West Virginia, we'll knock on wood. That should be a series that OU should be able to win with the confidence and the way they're playing right now. So
I know, Adam, at the beginning you said, probably pulling for Oklahoma State against Tech, but like OU's 2 games out. Aren't you kind of like
go for first?
Pulling for Tech and then be like, we'll take our chances, when we play Tech here and next week?
I guess so. I mean, that's another way to look at it. I didn't get past that next person up on the ladder. I was like, man, just knock out Texas Tech because they're right ahead of you there.
You play to win the game, Adam.
That's true. That's true. So yeah, baseball things are going well. Football things are slowing down a little bit as we hit into the heat of the off season, and it is getting hot out here in Oklahoma, over 90 degrees the last couple of days. So it's the dog days of summer. We're probably a few weeks away from everyone starting to do the 100-day countdown with every player jersey, the things that like we're just grasping for something to talk about. But there were a couple of notable things that happened in football land. 2 new transfers that have committed to OU. Let's start with the more notable one here. I guess just one, actually. The only transfer, Davis Bevel, the more notable addition at this point. The Pittsburgh transfer, likely the second-string quarterback. I don't think there's any question about that. Seems like that's about as good as OU could do for what they were asking there.
It definitely solves a huge problem that Oklahoma had. Especially we knew going into the spring game, what's the backup quarterback position going to look like? Fast forward to about 30 minutes after the spring game, kind of confirmed what we already knew. After Dylan Gabriel, there's really not much on Oklahoma's roster right now in terms of, somebody that you can rely on. God forbid Dylan Gabriel gets hurt, somebody that can come in and, keep the train on the tracks. But no, you're talking about a guy 6'6", 235 pounds, 3 years of eligibility left. You have to realize, guys, that Oklahoma wasn't going to go into the transfer portal and grab a guy, with super elite talent to come in just to be the backup. We saw guys like Gary Bohannon. There were a few other guys that kind of came in the portal. Jackson Dart was one. We all knew that Dylan Gabriel was going to be the starter. You weren't going to get somebody to come in and be the second string quarterback. But I think that Davis is a guy that you can rely on. Ultimately, doesn't have a tremendous amount of experience, but he has played in some key games. Does have more snaps under his belt than any other quarterback on the Oklahoma roster besides Dylan Gabriel. And Adam, you should know better than anybody. He had a really good performance in the Peach Bowl against Michigan State last year, going 14 of 18 for 149 yards and 1 touchdown. So he was sacked 7 times in the game. We're gonna discount that part. He should have a really good offensive line playing in front of him. But I think if you're Jeff Levy and Brent Venables, you got the right guy, and I think this will be a good fit for him.
Do we know for sure that this is the number 2 guy? I mean, he has such little film, and there is nothing outside the fact that he was a previous 4-star, which, hell, guys, we've had plenty of 4-stars who have not worked out here well at the University of Oklahoma. So I don't think you can just shoe him into a backup quarterback role. There's not enough there.
Micah Bowens is still on campus.
Yeah. I will say the combination of the fact that he has actually played a college snap, and I can't recall if Micah Bowens has or not. I mean, if he has, it hasn't
not
been
a
very
meaningful
much.
one.
Yeah, not too many meaningful ones. Whereas Bevel at least has done that. Now he was actually the 3rd string quarterback at Pitt last year, so he kind of had some good fortune go his way to get into that Peach Bowl there. But he did all right. So he has some experience. He's got a pedigree. His offer list coming out of high school for a 4-star was not super impressive. I think Clemson offered him, Virginia Tech offered him, and it wasn't like the who's who of the Power 5. So he was definitely a lower 4-star. As far as what you could ask for this particular position, you can't really. I mean, there's not a whole lot in the portal at this point, and all those guys are in the portal because they want to play. They weren't going to be able to play where they are. So this is a great get to be able to get someone that knows that they're probably not the starter. They may not be the starter next year either. They may not have a starting role at all at OU. But to me, can he fill the role of Joey Halsley or Drew Allen type of a name there that was just a solid backup that you felt okay about if you needed him in an emergency scenario? Yeah, I think I feel all right about that.
I view the situation, Adam, as he's a serviceable backup, and I hate to say it because he's got 3 years of eligibility left, but he's the perfect bridge gap for the next year to allow Jackson Arnold to get on campus for 2023. So, I
think he starts next year if Gabriel goes pro?
Okay. Or I think Jackson Arnold's your starting quarterback in 2023
as a true freshman.
Wow, that's bold. Can we clip this, Adam, just to hold in our back pocket?
I don't think that's crazy because Arnold could be the highest non-5-star quarterback in that particular class, and
they think he could be a 5-star by the time his senior season's over with. That's
he is on ESPN, right? Isn't he a 5-star on ESPN?
Who looks at ESPN?
I'd have to go back and check. I know he's a 4-star on Rivals and 247, but he's about as close to being a 5-star as you can be without actually.
I'd almost rather.
I don't think that's too far out there.
I don't think that's crazy. It's tough. There's very few guys like Caleb Williams that are just going to come in and, be a dude, even if you are a high 4-star. There's a lot of 5-stars that are not that guy either.
And are we realistically expecting that Dylan Gabriel is going to go pro after 1 year?
I don't know.
I just don't see it. I see it.
I mean, I guess I think that from a talent standpoint, I think that he definitely has the capability. We'll just see if he can put up the numbers in Jeff Lebby's offense to, kind of raise his draft stock. But I mean, he's kind of undersized. Yes, he is mobile, but he's not super fast like a Russell Wilson or a Kyler Murray. So we'll see what he can do this year. Now that this will be the best, skill talent, best, playmaker surrounding him that he's ever had in his football career. So we'll see what he can do. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that, Jackson Arnold could step in day one next year, especially if he is an early enrollee and compete for that starting job.
So you think Evers transfers out?
I wouldn't.
I mean, if Arnold's the starter.
It depends how they want to handle it. Are they going to take the Lincoln Riley approach where it's going to be a quarterback battle until 4 days before the season, or are they going to pull a Dave Aranda and prior to the transfer portal deadline they're going to announce a starting quarterback and give the backup kind of an opportunity to find another opportunity elsewhere? I don't know.
It's super far out, but I don't see how that quarterback theoretical battle between Arnold and Evers next spring is solved at this point, because Evers will have a full year to, leg up on the offense, on just being in college and so forth. So I just don't see that separation happening at that point.
Yeah. Well, Adam, we did get a recruit for the class of 2023, 3-star safety out of Life Christian Academy in Chester, Virginia, Mr. Caleb Spencer. Guys, what do we think about this? Number 5 for the class of 2023.
We can have safeties. That's what I think.
There you go.
I don't want to hate on the kid, but with 3-stars, I kind of have a wait and see approach with them, especially ones that aren't, ranked at 5.6 on Rivals. he's got the frame, but pretty much every 3-star you can look at and find something that you like. He's got the frame, he's got the speed, he's got this, he's got that. Like every high school recruit has something going for them. They're dominating it, in their particular level of high school football with their team. So there's a reason they're being recruited. And with Venables, you do give him the benefit of the doubt as far as him developing guys, identifying guys, because he's had an incredible defense pretty much every year he's coached, college football. But I guess with there being thousands and thousands of 3-star recruits out there, I just have to kind of reserve my level of excitement for recruiting for the top 250, the 4 stars, the 5 stars. And the 3-star is the lowest commit that we really get at OU. So I have to reserve judgment a little bit.
It's tricky because you watch his huddle tape and the level of competition when you look at some of the other players that are around him, especially opponents. It's not the highest level of competition. I think it's private school football, for lack of a better word. Most fans are going to see 3 stars next to his name and immediately think, oh boy, or I guess this is just another guy that we're just going to have to take because he's a warm body at a position of need. But this kid had offers from Michigan State, Mississippi State, Penn State, South Carolina, Tennessee. So, and then Adam, I think you hit the nail on the head. You've got to trust the evaluation of the coaching staff. If there's one coach that knows defense in college football, it's Brent Venables. So if Venables is willing to extend an offer to him, he must think he fits what Venables and Ted Roof are going to want to do. So trust the evaluation. And like you said, Corbin, 6'3", 210 pounds at safety. Not too shabby.
Guys, I think the offer list matters. And which of those teams are we competing with to get to that national elite level? Not one of them.
Penn State would be the closest.
I don't think Penn State's.
I'd say South Carolina and Tennessee are closer than Penn State is.
I probably wouldn't go that far, but it's I think it's telling though, guys. I do think the offer list matters, and especially if you're going to take a guy who is a 3-star guy, like. It does. I think rightfully so. It should give OU fans just a little bit of pause. Yeah. So hopefully we're all wrong. The one thing is you guys are both correct. The frame is there for him to be an elite college safety. Will that eventually play out? Only time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the range for a 3-star is stud, Hall of Fame NFL player, or guy that washes out and, transfers. And even a guy with Venables' track record, you can't hit on 100% of your 3 stars, even with him. So there's always risk, but you do have to trust him at this point to say, hey, he's going to get the most out of him. Whether that's he's the next Roy Williams, or he's DTY, or he's, and Bryson Washington up to this point in his career. We'll see if he's ever able to make an impact. Yeah, it's a good to get a commit because it's been such a dry time, and that's just the new recruiting philosophy that Venables implements here. So it's good to get a commit, but hard to get super, super excited about a 3-star from Virginia at this point. So
I need to say one thing, and I hope it doesn't ruffle any feathers to people who listen or any recruits out there, but can we please stop with quote tweeting a recruit saying we're not done yet? No shit, we're not done yet. We've got 5 guys in this class, and
we're done.
It's in early May. Please stop saying that. I don't know if I've got a bigger pet peeve right now on Twitter than when I see that. We're not done yet. Well, dear God, I hope not. So I just wanted to get that off my chest.
I love it. Pretty much everything that recruits tweet and the fanboys tweet with recruits is all a pet peeve of mine. They're all stupid sayings.
Yeah,
I'm trying to go back and find who the last 3-star defensive back that actually panned out at Oklahoma. For some reason, I thought Tony Jefferson was a 3-star, but it looks like he was a
Fields.
4.
Wasn't DTY a 3-star?
Let's see here.
Buki was a 5-star, so he doesn't count.
Did he get drafted?
He's a free agent with the Bengals.
He signed with the team.
Yeah, he's not gonna. He's a good guy. He'll be like a player personnel director or recruiting coordinator somewhere in a college scene. He'll make some good money in college football.
I'm just trying to picture him covering Jamar Chase in practice.
Maybe that's just what they need. He can.
Yeah, DTY. DTY was a 3-star. 5'10", 160 out of high school.
Yeah, I think he turned out pretty well.
3-star.
Trey Norwood starting safety for the Steelers. So yeah, it's definitely possible. And like we said, trust the evaluation, trust the coaching staff. There's not a better defensive mind, or I probably would even take it a step further. There's not a better development or I was going to say development, that's not even a word. There's not a coach out there that's been better and has a more proven track record at developing talent, especially safeties, than Brent Venable.